Good evening and welcome once again to the Lotus Flower Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Pamela Robinson, and I am so excited to have you all back again with me in the virtual and audio spaces. Well, tonight I have very special guests with me. I actually have a family with me this evening. My featured guests are Mr. Ron Williams, founder and CEO of Genius Reading LLC, and his two talented children, Jewel and Elijah Williams. Get ready for an inspiring evening that celebrates the power of passion and the strength of family. Join me as we welcome the remarkable Mr. Ron Williams and his children who are already making their mark as authors and young leaders. Together, they'll show their journey of how turning dreams into reality is possible, even for you. Take the bold steps that they have taken and create a reality that can bring about a successful business just like theirs, as they are inspiring others. And they want to be sure to inspire you this evening to do the same. This episode is important because Mr. Williams, an accomplished business professional, and his children are authors and entrepreneurs. They have made it their mission to create meaningful stories for children. With over 20 published books, Mr. Ron's stories highlight friendship, determination, and career, laying the foundation for children to see themselves as future leaders. Tonight, he'll share his vision of Genius Reading LLC, a thriving family business founded on creativity and community impact. Meet the young authors breaking boundaries. Jewel, 11 years old, is the author and of the Magical Chef series. Jewel brings her love of cooking, hairstyling, and dancing into her books. She aims to show young readers that following their dreams and exploring their talents is a magical journey. Jewel is stepping out of her comfort zone to shine as a young leader, already inspiring her peers and beyond. Elijah, 13 years old, co-author of the Bryson Fars series. Elijah is an athlete, gamer, and inspiring lawyer. Through his stories, he encourages other young minds to dream big and pursue their goals with passion. Elijah's dedication to creativity and excellence is inspiring a new generation to embrace entrepreneurship and leadership from an early age. Together, Jewel and Elijah are showing how young African Americans can lead by example, breaking boundaries and encouraging others to reach their very own dreams. Tune in and be inspired. Catch us for this uplifting conversation this evening as we delve into the joys and challenges of turning passion into purpose. From family dynamics to entrepreneurships insights, this episode promises to be one of encouragement, wisdom, and a powerful showcase of African American talent. Be sure to share this episode with your family, friends, and loved ones, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Most importantly, thank you all for joining us tonight for another empowering episode of the Lotus Flower Podcast, where we celebrate the voices and inspire and uplift all that join and watch the Lotus Flower podcast. With gratitude, I am so happy to bring onto the screen my special guest, Mr. Ron Williams, and his children, Jewel and Elijah. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for joining me this evening as my special guest.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate having you all here. Can you all introduce yourselves once again and greet our guests however you might choose?
Yes. So my name is Ron L. I am the founder of Genius Reading, and I'll let my son introduce himself.
My name is Elijah Williams. I'm 13 and I play basketball.
Okay.
My name is Joel Williams. I'm 11 and I like to cook and dance.
Thank you. Thank you all for introducing yourselves, and thank you all for being my special guest this evening. I'd like to open with a scripture, Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 through 24. And it reads, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord that you are serving. So, once again, welcome, Williams family, to the podcast this evening. I'd like to start off with Mr. Williams. And Mr. Williams, can you start by telling us a bit about how Genius Reading LLC began and what inspired you to start this family business?
It started around 2018. I had a passion to write a comic book. And when I started putting the comic book together, I had a partner in business to somebody else to kind of help me with the artwork. And we just never got the artwork done. We never got the comic book done. And so I remember one day I'm in my office and my wife comes in the room and she's like, there's something outside. And I was like, what's outside? So I look outside and I see this raccoon outside. And I didn't pay much attention to it. And then all of a sudden the raccoon started, messing up our backyard and things like that. And I had put the comic book that I was doing on pause because of the heavy artwork that went along with it. And my son had another book he was reading, and the artwork was in black and white. And I was like, well, instead of doing this heavy artwork, I can just write a book about this raccoon that's in the back of my yard. And we started writing. At that point, it took off. We published our first book actually during the pandemic, which was Reggie Raccoon. And that was an exciting book. And we went out and, sold some books face to face and in person. And my kids got inspired. My daughter first, she came to me and she said, Dad, I want to do something with my face on it. I said, okay, what is that? And we came up with some ideas. And I said, well, why don't you write a book? And she was like, okay, that's a good idea. And so we sat down and we came up with her book. And I'm sure you're going to ask more questions about that later. Jewel, the Magical Chef series. And my son jumped in on board with his Bryson Forrest series. And we just started writing more and more and more. And every idea that I had, I just got bigger and bigger, and I just kept writing.
That is absolutely amazing. And all started with a raccoon in the backyard.
Yes.
And that was getting into messing up all the stuff back there.
Exactly.
In the backyard. So I'm going to move on down, like you said, to Jewel and Elijah. And I just love your smiles. You all are just beaming. I tell you, you're making me smile over here. So Jewel and Elijah, I am so proud of both of you. You are just some inspiring young people. I tell you, to be your age and already be authors, that is so amazing. And I'll tell you, you are to be celebrated tonight. I want you to know that not only are people watching you all from North Carolina, but people are watching you all over the United States and all over the world. So, your series, although it's already doing amazing things, it's also going to be doing even better after this episode airs. So, just know that I am proud of you, and my audience that's joining tonight, they're proud of you. And most importantly, you all as a Christian family, I know that the Lord is so proud of what you all are doing, and
Thank you
He's
so
equipping
much.
you. Thank you all. Now, Jewel and Elijah, can you each share a little bit about the books that you've written and what are they about and what inspired you to write them?
So I have two books. It's the Bryson Farr series. The first one's about a kid trying to save his video game from an evil billionaire, and then the second one he's trying to save his job from an evil billionaire. It's kind of like a little fun mystery. And when it comes to games and commentating, those are two of my passions.
Okay, Jewel.
My book is about a magical chef, and it has a coloring book and a recipe inside of them. And what inspired me was my dad, because he was the first one to write a book, and I wanted to write a book too, and I really like cooking. So,
Thank you. Thank you both. Tell me a little bit more about what has been the most exciting part of becoming an author at such a young age.
So getting people to want to read and have like a passion at a young age, wanting to write a book, and also the money, that comes.
the most exciting part for me is not only people buying the books, but actually reading it as well, and also getting the money too. So.
That's amazing. Now, I'd like to ask you all, as you all are exploring the journey of writing books, I'm sure along the line there had to be of some bumps in the road, a few challenges that you all had to get through on this journey. So can you, Mr. Ron, tell us how did you help your children to overcome maybe some of the challenges? Maybe they got a writing freeze. I know when I wrote my books, sometimes I would get into a writing block. I mean, my mind would just kind of freeze up. I wrote so much and sat there, and some other hurdles, being the first time out and not knowing quite, being familiar with how to do it, those types of things. Any other challenges? How do you help them and even help yourself overcome some of these challenges?
Um, for me, I think the first thing, the challenge was coming up with fun and exciting stories. And so it was when I came up with Reggie Raccoon, I had to think of like what other characters can I put in the story and animals. So that was a challenge. The first book, I was able to kind of look around the neighborhood because I would walk every day. So that made it a little easier. But then that second book was like trying to really come up with more ideas and things like that. I think the other challenge, in my opinion, the big one that we had was actually selling the book and getting the book out there. And I didn't know what pop-up events were and things like that in my area. And we figured that out. And when we figured that out, even getting in front of people and getting people to come to your station and talk to you so we could tell them what the books are about was a challenge. And at the time, my kids were like 3 years younger. So they were like 7 and 8 years old at the time. And that was really, really tough. And my background is in sales. So I had to teach them how to sell. I had to teach a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old like how to talk with people. And they were very nervous, very shy. But we got through it and persevered, and they get excited now about, they ask me now, are we going out to sell or we're going to do this sometimes? And so they asked me about it. So we got through that. It was difficult. And then trying to sit down and write another book, that was challenging, but they may have their own. What challenges do you think that was tough for you?
Probably like maybe giving out cards and stuff.
Explain that to her because people don't know what we were saying, giving out cards.
Like making up characters for my stories, what friends use, so they're not like, oh, and stuff. And
Yeah, sure. When she said giving out cards, in order to get people to our booth when we're out selling, we have to hand out business cards telling people, "Hey, come check out our books that me and my family wrote." And that was the nervous part because you have to engage people and talk with them. And so I think that was a
Yeah.
struggle, but she got through it. What about you? What do you think?
I just want to piggyback off what Jules said when it comes to giving out cards. You know, it's not really a challenge anymore, but like from the start, it was kind of hard because like maybe like going up to people like might not be like getting out of your comfort zone. You know what I'm saying? Getting out of your comfort zone is something big that you have to do if you want to be successful. You know what I'm saying?
It's good.
That's excellent. And just getting out of your comfort zone. There are children that are watching tonight and that they heard you say that, Elijah, that just getting out of your comfort zone can be challenging. And then they heard you say, Jewel, that sometimes, just starting out, giving out those cards, was a little bit challenging. But there are kids that are watching and they heard you all saying that you started out that way, but it didn't last long. As you got out there and start doing it, it got easier. So the children that might be watching tonight or parents watching with their children know that it may be a little bit challenging initially, but those challenges is what gives them the drive to really want to push to do it. It doesn't make you want to quit. It makes you want to push even harder to
Exactly.
accomplish that goal. Is that right, Dad?
That's correct. Yeah,
Yes.
even I think my biggest challenge in the beginning, before they wrote their books, my first one, I'll add to that, is we were struggling trying to. Um, I didn't know how to write a book. I didn't know how to put it together. I didn't know how to publish it. So I hired a coach to help me publish a book. And once I got the author coach, we were able to. That's why we're now at 20 books. But that first book was really tough. That was probably the hardest one to do.
Yes.
Now I can do it in my sleep. I have it. I know everything. But the first book was really hard to do.
That's amazing. And the first book that you wrote, the type do you recall the title of that first book? I'm sure you do.
It's Reggie Raccoon.
Reggie Raccoon, starting
Yes,
off with that raccoon.
yes. Reggie
Yes,
Raccoon was the first character. Yes.
that's great. Now tell me, you have over 20 years in sales and operations. How
Hmm.
does that experience help you run a family business and make it a success?
The hardest part was knowing how to talk to people, how to sell to them, because it's an impulse sale. We're not famous authors. They don't know who we are. So it was a trial and error, to be honest. I took that 20 years of sales experience, direct sales experience, and I went and I was like, okay, when somebody comes to the table, like what will make them buy the books? So we had to make the books look good first, and then we had to explain it in a way that was real simple, that was fun and exciting. And when they see her book, they see how pretty it is, and they're just like, oh, it's so cute and amazing. And when they see his books, they laugh. Everyone laughs. And then when they see my books, it was like, oh, it's something that my kid needs. So we want to pull a quick emotion out of them while they're at the table, and then pricing, trying to get the book price right. So all of my sales experience kind of came up in that, like how to talk to people, keeping a positive attitude, because sometimes we go to events and then we struggle with getting people to come to our station, and sometimes people come and they don't buy, and then maintaining that positive attitude and then keeping their morale up the whole time. And so all of that is important as well too. And sometimes we go to events where the kids are playing, they want to play, so I have to strike that balance and like, you guys can go play too. So it's a lot that goes into that part. But I took all of my 20 years of experience and said, I think we can do this. And to be honest with you, I was a good salesperson, but I figured out I was really good when I started making money on my own, selling my own books. So yeah.
That's always a good thing when you can
Right.
move from working for someone to selling your own things, and that's amazing. And
Correct.
just to be able to mentor your children in such a way of how to start from the ground up, a business from the ground up, and writing at such tender ages, you said.
Yes.
And I like how you said how you strike up a balance that when they're at the events, they want to play sometimes, and you might give them a break and let them play a little bit, but then they come back and do what they need to do in terms of helping to promote the product.
Exactly.
That's amazing. I want to ask Miss Jewel over there some questions now. So, Jewel, can you tell me now? I can't really see you on the screen too much right now because I don't. If I take myself off the screen, then we won't be able to see me. So I'm gonna just talk to you, and you just kind of peek your head over there a little bit if you can. Okay.
There
There you
you
go.
go.
There you go.
Okay, that was good. Okay, Joe, as someone who dreams of being a chef, how does your passion for cooking influence your writing?
It influences my writing because the only reason that I even wrote like a book about a magical chef is because I really like cooking,
Yes.
and I've been wanting to be a chef since I was like 3.
Oh, man. So, what are some things that you cook already?
Spaghetti, Philly cheesesteaks, fried chicken.
Oh, yummy. You do? And at what age did you start cooking?
I started baking at 3. I started like actually kind of cooking at like 8 and 9 and stuff.
Wow, you all are just amazing. Young minds starting early. I also want to ask you, what message do you want readers to take away from the Magical Chef series that you wrote?
They can be anything that they want.
They can be whatever they want. That's right. Now, you shared that you also love dancing and hairstyling. What do you enjoy most about expressing yourself in these different creative ways?
I like doing like hair because it's in like the same group as cooking and stuff, and I like doing like art and hair. And
What types of hairstyles do you do?
I do braids, ponytails, like the simple stuff.
Wow, that's not simple to me because I don't even know how to do it. That is, wow, that is amazing. I'm so impressed. Now, let me move on back over to Elijah. Do you have any questions for me, Miss Jewel, first of all, before you move back over?
What like encouraged you to start podcasting?
Uh-huh.
I was encouraged back through the pandemic. When the pandemic started, the pandemic started, my late husband and I, we are though he's passed away now, but when we are were ministers, and we had a small grassroots ministry in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And when the podcast started, we had to take everything online. We couldn't go out in community. You probably remember that anymore. We had to do everything virtual. So since we couldn't do anything in the community and talk with people face to face, we still were doing ministry online, like doing some preaching online, some teaching online, some other things that we would do online. But my late husband said, why don't we do a podcast? And that way we can really reach even more people that maybe never step foot in a church. And we want to do it in such a way that it's creative. And it doesn't have to be preachy like they are in a church service, but it's going to still be one that's a Christian platform, and we're going to feature African American voices, and not only just feature the African American voices, we're going to celebrate African Americans and what they do, but not exclude other people. We're going to invite all people in from all races, all backgrounds, but we just want to highlight African Americans because oftentimes we don't find ourselves in this type of space. So that's why we started it. And you know what? When we first started it, it was just he and I, and it was some challenges. We had to figure out how to do a podcast. We had never done a podcast in our life. We had to figure out what equipment to purchase, and we had to figure out how to set it up and how to get on the different platforms. And so we had to jump through some hurdles just like you all did. And you know what? It's been 3.5 years, and
Awesome.
I have really enjoyed it to this point. And just having people on like yourself to inspire us and inspire other young people, it is just what the Lord had us to do? This is why we started the podcast. And so that was an amazing question.
It was a good question.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much. Let's move on over to Elijah. Elijah, as the co-author of the Bryson Farr series, tell us a little bit about what that series is, first of all.
So the kid, the teen, he has to try and do like missions or like mysteries, like I alluded to before. And he's just, you know, he has to face adversity. Obviously, he's facing a bunch of challenges, life challenges, and he wants people to know like you can do whatever you want. Like Jules said, you can't. You gotta push through. Like there's no ifs ands or buts about it. You just gotta go with it.
That's great. That's good. And now, did you come up with that title yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you choose that title?
So Bryson Fars, my middle name is Bryson, and then Fars is a mix between football and cars.
Oh, football and cars. Okay, so that means you must like football and cars.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good. Now that is really catchy. So, what themes or messages do you hope your readers will find in your stories?
Mm.
Themes in my stories.
Yes.
So maybe like just being yourself. Maybe just like
I heard you say adversity, overcoming adversity. Is that a theme that runs through your stories and not quitting?
yes, ma'am. That would definitely be a theme that could be for my stories.
Yes.
Also, just doing like doing going above and beyond is definitely something because he obviously is a game creator and a commentator. That's not something any other ordinary 14 or 15-year-olds doing. So just going above and beyond,
That's good.
doing stuff that most teens obviously can't do.
That's excellent. Now, you also play basketball and dream of becoming a lawyer. How do these other goals inspire your writing?
Can you repeat that?
How does um, your dream of becoming a professional basketball player and a lawyer, how does that motivate you in your writing?
So on the lawyer part, you would have to read a lot to become a lawyer, like my dad told me. So writing could really get my intellect way better in terms of typing in your book, in
Yes.
terms of like just going through hurdles because becoming a basketball player is a very tough challenge.
Yes.
So it's not just oh I'm gonna go shoot, I'm gonna go to the NBA. You have to get the right amount of training. You have to go to the next level. And in my stories, it talks about going to the next level. You can't just stay on one level. Going to from a game creator to a commentator, you're going to the next level.
Mhm. That's amazing. That is so thoughtful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Elijah. Now, do
You're
you have any questions for me?
no, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you so much. And so,
Good job, guys.
yes, that was just excellent. Now, I want to ask off to Mr. Ron. Mr. Ron, you're raising two children to be strong leaders. What advice would you give parents looking to help their children follow their passion?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Parents, pay attention to your children. Pay attention to the small things, and that'll allow you to encourage them more. Because, for an example, my daughter, she when she started cooking, I took her seriously, and we would let her do a little bit. We let her come in the kitchen with us, and she would come in and do some things, and then She was very demanding, so she learned really fast, which was a good thing. So we were like, okay, you can do it alone. So it came to the point where it was just like, okay, we're in the kitchen with her. Now when she starts cooking, we're not in the kitchen. We're in ear distance, but we're not in the kitchen per se, and we know what she's doing. But she does an excellent job with it. But you have to let, if they have a little passion, don't throw it away. Encourage them to do whatever you do. Go buy whatever they need to buy. And for my son, he's into basketball. We're actually doing it today, right now. So we had to take this little room. You can't see it, but we were like, okay, let's do some basketball stuff. So I took him out for the basketball. He had the passion for it. You know, you see kids play the video games and they talk about it and they watch sports, but him wanting to play, he needs to play at this level. It's a rec league now, but you never know what he can get from that too. And so I tell parents, like, if it's a little thing, you know, take that little thing and run with it with your child. Don't be afraid to dream with them. Um, and it's okay, even if it's beyond sports, because my daughter is not into sports, but she loves cooking. She loves things like that. So we put her in things that she enjoys doing. So that's what I would recommend.
Thank you for answering that so thoroughly. Can you also share with us a little bit about how your faith plays a role in the work and your journey as an entrepreneur and as a father?
My faith has always been a Christian. I've been a Christian since I was a kid, about 15 years old. And so as an entrepreneur, first I would say just the challenges that you face is starting a business and trying to do everything right and get everything right and build it up from the ground up. It's a lot of prayer. And sometimes you're afraid to kind of step out and do things, but by the grace of God, I was able to do it because I felt like God wanted me to do something great in my life. And then even with my children, um, raising them to love God, know God is more important than the, I know they talked about money earlier, than the money and all of that. So for me, it was just to be like, okay, the main thing is your faith and your walk with God. That's the main thing, and then everything else comes after that. So that's how I kind of raise them. God first.
Thank you so much. And also, I was reading a little bit in your bio that you all are inspiring Christian people and faith filled people, and so that is just so amazing. I know that when we keep God first, or we seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, the Bible said, when we do that, all the other things will be added unto us. Sometimes we think that's just financial things, but He
Hmm.
gives us the capacity, the mental, the physical, emotional capacity, the strength, and the endurance to continue on. And so I'm so grateful that you all joined me this evening. I'm going to pause now for a brief station identification, and then we'll come back and conclude the podcast.
Okay, sounds
Thank
good.
you. Thank you all. I'm going to pause now, as I stated, for a brief station identification. Once again, my guest this evening, we have with me Mr. Ron Williams, along with his children, Jewel and Elijah. They are my featured guests this evening, and Mr. Ron is the founder and CEO of Genius Reading LLC. Thank you all for joining me for this episode as we are discussing the title of The Power of Passion: How to Turn Your Passion into Successful Businesses. Season 4, Episode 71. You can see on the screen the children here that are just so driven and motivated. Elijah here, and we have Jewel here, and along with their father, Mr. Williams. So, as before we bring them back on the screen, I'd like to go ahead and bring on a brief impact video from the Lotus Flower podcast. Welcome back to the Lotus Flower Podcast, season number 4, episode number 71, with my special guest, Mr. Ron Williams, along with his children, Jewel and Elijah. Welcome back, family. I'd like to move on down now to ask all of you a few questions, and they are as follows. Mr. Ron, Jewel, and Elijah, what does it feel like to be inspiring so many young people?
For me, I was a former educator for a little while, and to finally see kids that like our book and our products, because we get kids that come back to us and say, we read your book and we love it and we were inspired by it. It's been great. We've gone through the workbook. That's what I enjoy about seeing with the kids. What do you think, Joel?
What I like about inspiring is that I get to inspire not only people younger than me and my peers, I get to inspire people like older than me.
Just to piggyback off of what Joel said, people younger than me and then older than me is I feel very proud of myself knowing that people older than me want to aspire to be like me, because writing a book at this young of an age is a huge accomplishment.
That's amazing. You all are so articulate and well spoken. So, a family business often brings the families closer together. Can each of you share a favorite memory that you've had working together on Genius Reading LLC?
Oh wow, favorite
Wow.
memory.
That's a long shot.
It's a lot. So I don't know if it's one memory, but I think just in general, when we first started going out, my kids would be like, "I don't want to go," and I told them one time, I was like, "This is how I bond with you guys." We bond in other ways too, but it's a huge bonding moment for me. So just in general, just going out is a bonding moment every time we go. We do it every weekend.
So for me, it was probably our first time coming out with the books. We sold them. I can't remember what market. It might have been the Black Flea Market. We came out with our books, and we sold very well that day. I think each of us sold 20 at our first time. And it was very relieving because we didn't know how big our books could get. So going out there and selling that amount of books at our first time was very relieving, but also amazing knowing how far our business could go.
Okay.
My favorite memory, it's not just a memory. My favorite time of selling was when we would go to movie night events, because we could stay out there, we could give out cards, we could sell together. Then at the end, we could just watch a movie. And our first time hitting $1,000. That was a really fun moment.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
a really good
That was
moment.
great.
that's amazing. That's amazing. So, can you share with me, as an entrepreneur, though, and hitting that $1,000 mark, when you hit that $1,000 mark, how did that feel?
Me personally, I was shocked. I didn't. The day it happened, I think we had a busy weekend, and then when we hit the $1,000 mark, we hit over $1,000, and I was just like, "Whoa, people really like these books." And I mean, I was, even when I got the first book that I completed and it came to the house and you can look at it, I was just, speechless, to be honest. And I had that same feeling again of speechless. I'm like, we just made $1,000 today.
Yeah.
And I thought that was crazy. And what about you? Because it was one time when we did that money, we had so much cash. I handed it to him to count. And Jules started they started making it rain and stuff. It was hilarious.
Wait. I could say so much on that.
My dad handed me the money to count it, and I just started taking pictures. I started writing the
Oh, you
money.
did, didn't
Yeah,
Money.
that was
And I
fun.
was really, really happy that we had hit $1,000, because that was like the first time we had got that much money when selling. That was awesome.
you?
I can vividly remember the picture that I took. It was all the ones and the tens crumbled up, and it was in my lap. And I was like, put my phone up, and I had like a bunch of money in my hand as well. And I sent it to my friends.
Oh man, you sent that picture to your friends. Oh, I bet those friends were like, "Oh, I wish I could have that money." Man, that is so nice. I am so proud of you all. As we bring the podcast to a close, I want to reflect on what are you planning on doing moving forward in the business. So as a family, what are your dreams for the future of Genius Reading LLC? Are there any new projects that you're excited about or that might be coming upon us anytime soon?
Sure. And we do have to leave in a few, but next year we're going to put out, they're going to write another book. So you two will have another book to put out. And then I'm expanding beyond the books, and I'll have a software that we'll create. We're going to be teaching financial literacy. So that's one thing we're going to be doing as well. So that's the future as well. We're going to continue writing more books. And then the next phase is working to get our book and our families online so that we can sell online. We'll do events, from time to time, but our goal next is to make sure we get this thing going online as well too.
That's good. So I want to close with this scripture, and it's Proverbs 16, verse 3. And it says, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans." I would like to thank you, Mr. Ron, Jewel, and Elijah, so much for sharing your time, for sharing your talent, and your stories with us.
Yeah. So, yep. So we have to wrap up in like 10 seconds here.
Yes,
They let us use the room. They were gracious. Um,
yes,
is there anything I can leave? If
yes.
anybody want to go, they
Please
can go
leave
to our
your
website.
contact information, your
Yeah.
website name, and how can they purchase those books?
The website is reggieraccoon.com, and then they can go on the website. And the first page, they'll see the link to the books, and then it'll take them to Amazon, but they'll see all of our books on that link.
Yes, and I'll put that in the description. Thank you all for
Perfect.
joining me
Thank
this
you
evening.
so much.
It's nice to
Thank
see you
you.
all again from the Black Farmers Market. Have
Yes. Thank
have
you.
an amazing evening and enjoy the basketball tonight.
Yes. Yes. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care now. Thank you. Good night.
Good.
The Lotus Flower Podcast, season number 4, episode number 72. Look look at the screen and you can see that we have been blessed to have had with us this evening 3 people that are highly talented people. Not only are they highly talented people, they are people that love the Lord with their whole heart, mind, body, and soul. And they are young people, 2 of them. Well, dad's young as well, I think he'd say. But 2 are young teenagers that have started writing even before becoming teenagers. They are so driven. Jewel and Elijah, 11-year-old and 13-year-old. They're making their mark as authors and young leaders. We are so grateful to have had them on the podcast with their dad, Mr. Williams, tonight. He is an accomplished business professional, a children's author that has a mission to create meaningful stories for kids. They, as a family, have published over 20 books. And I am so grateful once again to have had them here on the Lotus Flower Podcast with me this evening. Now, please be sure to like, comment, and to subscribe to the podcast. In doing so, each time the episodes air, you will receive that episode drop right there in your inbox, okay? Also, be sure to share this stream with your family and friends. Thank you all for joining me and my guests this evening for another transformative episode of the Lotus Flower Podcast. I tell you, God is good all the time, and all the time, God is good. What an amazing family that has inspired us. And I want you to know that God is no respecter of persons. Just like He did it for the Williams family, He'll do it for you. Just step out on faith and believe that with God, all things are possible. Again, thank you all for joining me this evening, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, streaming live right here on the Dr. Pamela Robinson Facebook page and on the Lotus Flower YouTube channel. And also, you may listen to the podcast wherever you find your audio podcasts. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all again next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. May God richly bless you. Good night.